Hello, this is Rachel with the Otago Prattville Public Library, and I'm here today to show you guys how to use your Curbside craft kit for a fairy garden. So the first thing you'll need to do, if you haven't already, is stop by the Prattville Library and pick up your Curbside kit for your adult program. This has almost everything you need to complete the kit. I do have a couple of other supplies here, and those are listed on the kit as well, so you know what is provided and what you'll need to have on your own. And today with making a fairy garden, we're just gonna get real simple and use our imaginations to create a cute little decorative creation. It should be really fun. If you have not yet picked up your crafting kit and it is the same week that this video is posted, you still have time. You can go get it. Like I said, go down to the Prattville Library and give our circulation desk a call at 365-3396 extension 14, and we would be super happy to bring a kit out to you. So let's get started. So in my kit, I have on the outside my list of supplies that are provided and list of supplies that I'll need. There's also on here the dates to pick up your kit, so you know you can get this between June 15th and June 20th. And it also says right on the middle here that this video will be on Facebook at 6 p.m. on June 16th. So if you're watching this, you obviously already know, or it's past that date and you're seeing the replay. But thank you guys so much for joining me. We're really excited to be able to provide this digital programming, and we hope you guys really enjoy it. So supplies that are provided in the kit, you all should have at least one gnome or fairy mini figurine. And actually, before I get into the supplies, let me go over with you. You'll have a little handout in there too. And this handout, sorry, mine got kind of squished, says on one side all the things that are going on for grown-ups this week for Summer Library Club. And on the back, there's the details in these little boxes of each program, as well as a little mini calendar of what's coming up next week. So be sure to hang that up on your fridge or look through those, see which events you want to attend. Some of them, if they're on Facebook like this, all you have to do is log in and click on it to enjoy and participate along. Some of them, if they're on Zoom, my email address will be on the flyer that gives you the information for the program. So you can email me at that address to get the invite link to any of our live Zoom programs. Okay, so now on to supplies. I'm just gonna kind of dump my stuff out here. The things that I did not provide, let's start with that. I did not give out a bunch of scissors because that would have gotten expensive really fast. You guys will need to provide your own liquid glue if you choose to use it. Markers. You will need pebbles, and I have some pebbles that are kind of glued together here already, and some of these little glass decorative pebbles as well. You need or can use plants, flowers, sticks, leaves, that sort of thing. I have a little bit of extra Spanish moss here, and then I have a little bit of fake foliage rose stuff going on. I'm not gonna deal with real sticks and rocks and such today just because I'm inside the library, but you guys absolutely can. You can make yours very authentic by using all sorts of outdoorsy craft supplies. And then the final thing you'll need is some sort of shallow dish or container. This is a shoebox lid, and that's gonna be the base of the fairy garden. So this shoebox lid is going to be my base for my fairy garden, and I'll just set that right here and start assembling the items that are provided. So in my little Curbside craft kit, if I dump it out ever so gently, okay, so make sure you get all the pieces out too. So we've got a little mini baggie inside our big baggie, and that has our gnome or fairy figurine. I'm gonna hold this up a little closer so y'all can see him. Isn't he cute? So I just saved one gnome for this project for me, but everyone who picks up the kit should have one gnome or fairy or more. You'll have at least one gnome or fairy, and then you'll have at least 2 little accessory trinkets to go along with them. And then in your little baggie also is some divvied out Spanish moss for you. We have a bathroom tissue tube because we are earth friendly and we like to reduce and reuse and recycle. We have some Mardi Gras beads, a Tealight, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and yes, I did count them out for every single kit, 8 red popsicle sticks. So, how are we going to make a fairy garden with this? Stick around, I'll show you right now. The first thing we're going to do is go ahead and grab one of our markers, or you can use a pencil for this step if you prefer. And I'm just going to draw a little arch on the front of my TP tube to make it look like a door. So I just drew a little arch, and then I'm going to cut that out with my scissors. And then the other thing I'm going to do with my scissors and this tube here is I'm going to cut a little section so that the roof can have slants to it. But first, let's do the door, one thing at a time, right? So I'm cutting out my little door. I'm not sure if I want to keep the door or just have it be like an opening. I'll decide that later, so I'm just cutting it out with a little bit of extra caution. And now we have a little entryway for our gnome friend. And I'm going to set the door piece aside. And then for the top, to get that slant how I want it, I'm going to make sure that the tip of the door is aligned to the center of where I'm holding it. And then I'm going to squish it so that there's almost like a seam right there where that middle point is. Squish the tube flattened. And I'm going to cut at about a 45-degree angle up to that center line, or down from that center line, like this. And now we have a little slanted area where we can put our roof. Okay, now before we go any further, we're going to want to get our gluing done so that we can be sure to let that dry. So I'm going to get 5 sticks here. And I'm just kind of looking at my ratios. So I'm actually going to cut 6 of these sticks in half. You may not actually end up using all 8 of your popsicle sticks, and that's okay. I just wanted to be sure that y'all had enough so that you can make a roof if you wanted to, or if you had the desire to make like a little door out of the sticks, you can do that with whatever you have left over as well. Do be careful when you cut your popsicle sticks because they can go flying like that one. I'll grab him in a minute. That's another reason I got extras. So I'm cutting my sticks just straight down the halfway point. You can mark it with your pencil or marker before you cut them just to be sure, and measure with a ruler if you want to be really particular about it. I like my fairy gardens and really everything I make creatively to have a little bit of a rustic feel. So if they aren't perfectly lined up, it's still gonna look super cute. Okay, so I'm gonna take these half pieces here. Let me scoot this so y'all can see. And I'm gonna line up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them with the flat ends all facing the same direction. And kind of squish them together just a little bit so that the edges kind of fray at the top where you cut it. So I'm just kind of squishing them together so that it doesn't do that too much. And then I'm going to take another half stick that I've cut and cut the little rounded part just barely off, because I want to use this as like a support brace and I don't want that rounded part sticking out. So I'm going to take my liquid glue and put it on that support piece I just cut. And, oop, geez, making a mess already. Be sure to have some paper towels handy. And of course, wash your hands after doing this craft and after doing everything, because it's a scary world. Okay, so we've got our support piece glued on to the back of the 5, 6. Like, I need a little bit more glue on one side here. It's okay if the glue sneaks over the edge a little bit, because that part's going to be facing inside. So this is what I did. Okay, and then I'm going to do that same thing over again. So I'm going to line up, let me scrape away some of this glue real quick. Okay, so we're going to line up 5 more pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Again, with all the flat edges facing the same direction. And we're going to trim another half piece so that the round part is gone. So it's not sticking out of the side and looking a little wonky. And we're going to use it again as a support brace for these. And it's okay, like I said, if you get a little bit of extra glue. I was pretty liberal with the glue when I applied it to mine, just because the popsicle sticks tend to pop off of one another if you don't have a decent amount of glue there. And you are going to want to be sure to let it dry as much as you can before you finish your assembly. So those are going to be the roof. They're going to go like this and this up here, and it's going to look super cute. And this is our little fairy house. Now let's start working on the actual garden part. So I'm going to set my roof and my house aside and get my base, and we'll set our little friend with our house there. And I think what I'm going to do is kind of go biggest to smallest. That's not necessarily true. Okay, so I'm going to use these Mardi Gras beads as like a path leading up to the house. So you can play around with the elements that you're using and kind of place them, move them again, replace them again, all sorts of things like that. Whatever you do the first time, it doesn't have to be that way for your whole fairy garden if you don't like it. If you don't like it, you can just change it. So I'm making a little windy road here, just going from one corner of the box where I want my little house to be, kind of down to the other end. If you guys can kind of see that. I'm not going to tilt it up to show you because it will move the beads. And then I'm just going to take a few dots of this liquid glue to fortify that to hold those beads in place so it does look like the edging of a path. So take my glue here, start in the corner. And again, I'm doing a pretty liberal amount of glue because these plasticky beads can just roll right off if you don't kind of give them a good base of glue to hang out on. So I'm just kind of doing a winding sort of shape. All the way to the corner. And then I think I'll curl up. I have a little bit of excess bead on this one side. I think I'm going to curl that up inside itself so it looks like a cute little kind of beginning of path marker. So let's curl this bad boy up. Awesome. Great. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side so that the path matches up. Just putting my line of glue where I want the beads to be and then gently setting the beads right on top. And then adding a little bit more glue so I can curl up the end. So we're going to let that dry for a moment. Now, the next thing I want to add, I think I'm going to use this Spanish moss to line the pathway as like the sidewalk material, I guess. And then I think I'll use some of these pebbles to make like a lake effect. I have this pebble coaster I made from last summer's summer library club, and I'm gonna put that in there as like a little pond. So since that's pretty big, I think I'll stick that in there near the beginning so I can think about where that's gonna be situated with everything. And I've got that in there, like, let's see if I can put this up, that. And then the Spanish moss I might do is kind of like a final touch sort of thing. But for now, I think I'll work on this pond and make it look just a little bit less circular and a little bit more organic. So I'm going to add some more of these glass marbles that I have just around the edge. And it also adds some more pops of color as well. And I'll do some clear ones. More. And really, if you think of any trinkets you have laying around that you think would be great for a fairy garden, if you have succulents that you're growing, those are really great. I've seen a lot of people do fairy gardens incorporating those, and those are super cute. There's all sorts of ways that you can let your imagination take this project from looking kind of like a basic fairy decorative thing to a real, like, a real garden that looks like magical, basically. I'm doing the basic version here today as a demonstration, but you guys will get ideas from this that hopefully you can expand upon and use as inspiration. There is a link in the instruction packet that came with the summer reading welcome packet. If you didn't get one of those, you can let us know and we'll give you one. But there's a link in that packet with all the materials you'll need and everything that also links you to some pages for inspiration for these projects and things you can do to use these ideas and take them even further. So as I'm gluing these little trinkets down, I'm just adding some beads in there in my lake that also happen to be blue that I found in with my glass marbles to really add to that watery look. I'm gonna get one more of those little guys. Maybe. See, now they all want to come play except for the one I want. Okay, awesome. Now we're cooking. Okay, so I've got my lake finished. I've got my path finished. I'm gonna now pretend that I'm using like real life foliage and whatnot, but I'm gonna use these great fake rose leaves and bushes to add like a little tree in my scenery. So I'm gonna see if I can break a piece off. Oh, it's got the wire in it. So I might have to get some wire cutters for that part, but I can just pull off some of these leafy bits and use those as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and start gluing these leafy bits. I want this one right by my lake. And again, we're gonna let everything sit without moving it too much as long as we can to let that glue really do its thing. Okay, and I want to use some of these flowers from this too. I think can be like a, put these maybe on this other side. Yeah, I like that. So really just use your own sense of artistic judgment where you're putting your different elements. There's no right or wrong way to do it, just so long as you are able to incorporate the things that you think would be fun to add in, and so long as you like the look of what you make. And even if you don't, sometimes we make crafts and it's just about the process as well. So it's always good to experiment and play around and learn new skills as we go. And you can't do that without occasionally making something that looks a little silly, but that's okay. That's half the fun, I think, more than half. So we're gonna go ahead and keep sticking these little flowery and leafy bits all around. I want like a big leaf in this corner, I think. Right now I've got it kind of situated like that. Let's see if I can find a big chunk of leaves. Or maybe combo a few of them together. There we go. That can come with. Here we go. This can come with. So I'm just going to make a big, huge, bushy, leafy paradise in this last corner. And put one big old rose in the middle. kind of get them to where I think they'll stay and glue them on. Now this one, since he's such a big bunch of leaves, I'm gonna let it kind of spread out and cover some of this extra blank area down here as well. So that's a good way to make sure that you've got lots of color in your design. Cool. Okay, let this rose get to where it can reach the glue. There we go. And let that dry for a minute. Okay, so let me look at how my roof is doing for my little house. They're holding together fairly well, but they're not quite dry yet. So I am going to give them a little smush and then let them dry for a little bit longer. And I think I'm going to start incorporating some of this Spanish moss. And you can just pull off teeny little pinches of it and stick it right down into the base. And you can make it as thick or as sparsely covered as you want. It's totally up to you. I'm just going to do a light layer over the bottom, I think. Now, a good idea for your base, if you don't have a shoebox lid, excuse me, is you can use the lid of a used coffee can or anything else like that. The round ones would make some super cute fairy gardens for sure. I've seen if you want to do it out in nature, you can use, if you've got a stump in your backyard or something like that, you can build a fairy garden on that. There's tons and tons of options, and it's really fun to kind of play around with. Sticks that come with this Spanish moss, I'm just going to stick them in to reinforce where our plants are glued down. Ooh, that's a big bunch. Here we go. And I think actually, now that I see how the Spanish moss is filling in the landscape, I like it like that. And I'm not going to put it in the path. I'm going to leave the path this smooth cardboard, and I think that will give it more of a sidewalky look anyway. If you really wanted to get fancy with it, you could get lots of little pebbles, gray and brown pebbles, and make like a little cobblestone type of pathway. But like I said, I'm inside. I'm not going to go on a big old rock hunt today. Maybe next time. Okay, so after we've made a big mess with our Spanish moss, you can sweep some of that up and just sprinkle it right back on to the scenery if you want. I'm going to start decorating my house, and I'm not going to do the roof just yet because like I said, it's still drying, but I've got a couple markers here, and I think my little gnome guy really likes this teal color. So I'm gonna start decorating his house. You can add windows, you can add bricks, you can do all sorts of things like that. So I'm gonna make his little house look like it's got a bunch of green moss balls growing on all the little cobblestones that this cute little cottage is made of. So I'm just drawing a bunch of little green circles, stacked up like cobblestones, and coloring them in so that we, again, get that nice pop of color. And I'm going to repeat that all the way around. If you wanted to do a fairy village, you could get a bunch of extra TP tubes and things like that. Paper towel rolls cut in half also work, and you can make a whole little community for your fairies or gnomes. And let's see, I'm gonna do like a little brick pattern outside the doorway, I think. Like that. And then I'll carry on with my mossy cobblestones. It'll be kind of fun too, because it'll be a little bit like a polka dot house. And as I'm coloring in and decorating my little fairy house, I'm also reshaping the tube a little bit, because when we squished it down to cut the slants for the roof, it did warp the circle a little bit. So I am trying to kind of gently form it back into its original shape. Wonder if you guys can hear that bird that was just singing. It was lovely. Okay, let's see. I think I've got maybe half a dozen more dots to do. Let's knock them out real quick. And then we'll check on the drying of the roof. Brilliant. So there is our decorated house. So I'm gonna go ahead and scoot that out of the way, and I'm gonna take my little LED light and I'm gonna go ahead and stick it right where the house is gonna go. The house is gonna go over the LED light, and when you light it up, it looks like a nice little natural fires going on inside the home. So I'm gonna turn that on and set it down there. And let's check on our roof. It's sticking to my paper a little bit, which has me slightly concerned. There we go, there's one. So I'm gonna line up my angle, and then I pick it up just like that. I'm gonna take my glue, oops, put him back together real quick. Okay, put a little bit more glue on this side. See, yeah, this guy's falling apart because he was stuck to the paper, but we can still carefully hold and glue them together. There we go. Okay. So, as I hid behind my house, we have our roof assembled, and I'm gonna let it dry again now that it's fully together. Just because I really don't want it to collapse when we're trying to put him on. Actually, you might, yeah, no. Follow your own advice, Rachel. We're gonna let it dry. So while that's drying, let's take a look at what our semi-finished fairy garden looks like. Our little guy here. Okay, so we have ta-da! Isn't that cute? I'm gonna very gently set it on there. There we go. And now we have a house for our gnome and a beautiful garden and a super cute little homey area. Thank you guys so much for joining me for today's craft. I hope you enjoyed it. Please stay tuned for the rest of our activities this week and for fun activities all throughout the summer. And we do have reading logs for all ages for the Summer Library Club. So if you want to get involved, please give us a call and we will bring a reading log out to you curbside. Thank you guys so much again for joining me, and I hope you guys have a fabulous day.